On October 24, 2023, 42 states filed a lawsuit that could fundamentally reshape the internet. Meta Platforms, the company behind Facebook and Instagram, stands accused of knowingly designing products to addict children, prioritizing profit over the mental health of an entire generation. The potential liability, $1.4 trillion. It's the largest lawsuit in social media history, and its outcome will determine whether tech giants can be held accountable for harm allegedly caused by their algorithms and features. According to the complaint filed in federal court, Meta allegedly exploited young users through features specifically engineered to maximize engagement. The states claim Instagram and Facebook deployed infinite scroll, algorithmic feeds, persistent notifications, and visual filters, knowing these features would prove irresistible to adolescent brains. The lawsuit alleges Meta conducted internal research showing these design choices harmed children's mental health, then concealed those findings from parents, regulators, and the public. Attorneys general from states spanning the political spectrum joined forces, calling it a crisis of public health. The lawsuit points to a disturbing trend that emerged alongside Instagram's rise. According to research cited in the complaint, rates of anxiety and depression among teenagers, particularly teenage girls, began climbing sharply around 2012, the year Instagram introduced its photo-sharing platform to mass audiences. The states cite studies showing correlations between heavy social media use and increased rates of self-harm, eating disorders, and suicidal ideation among youth. While correlation doesn't prove causation, the lawsuit alleges Meta's own internal research acknowledged the connection and the company chose profits over protective measures. Much of the lawsuit's foundation rests on internal Meta documents leaked by whistleblower Frances Haugen in 2021. These documents, known as the Facebook Papers, allegedly revealed that Meta's own researchers warned executives that Instagram made body image issues worse for 1 in 3 teenage girls. According to the complaint, internal presentations showed Meta knew teen users felt addicted to Instagram and that the platform amplified harmful content to maintain engagement. The states argue these documents prove Meta had knowledge of harm and chose growth over safety. The complaint specifically alleges Meta violated the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act by collecting data from users under 13 without parental consent. Despite Instagram's official policy requiring users to be at least 13, the lawsuit claims Meta knowingly allowed millions of younger children to create accounts. The states cite internal communications suggesting executives were aware of widespread underage use but failed to implement effective age verification, viewing young users as a crucial demographic for future growth. Meta allegedly designed features specifically calibrated to appeal to children and preteens. According to the lawsuit, Meta employed tactics borrowed from casino gambling and behavioral psychology to keep young users hooked. The complaint describes how variable reward schedules and likes and comments trigger dopamine responses similar to slot machines. Infinite scroll removes natural stopping points. Streaks encourage daily logins. The algorithm prioritizes content that generates strong emotional reactions, regardless of whether that content is healthy or harmful. Each feature, the states argue, was deliberately designed to exploit vulnerabilities in the developing adolescent brain, creating compulsive usage patterns that meet clinical definitions of addiction. Meta has categorically denied the allegations and moved to dismiss the lawsuit. In public statements and court filings, the company argues its platforms provide valuable tools for connection, creativity, and community, particularly for young people who might otherwise feel isolated. Meta maintains it has invested billions in safety features, content moderation, and tools for parents. The company points to resources like parental supervision controls, time management features, and sensitive content restrictions for teen accounts. Meta argues the lawsuit seeks to blame a single company for complex societal problems with multiple causes. Meta's legal strategy relies heavily on Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, a law that has historically shielded internet platforms from liability for user-generated content. Meta argues the lawsuit attempts to hold the company responsible for content created by third parties, which Section 230 explicitly prohibits. However, the states counter that their case isn't about user content but about Meta's own design choices and business practices. They argue features like infinite scroll and algorithmic amplification aren't protected speech but rather products that can cause harm, similar to defective consumer goods or dangerous pharmaceuticals. The $1.4 trillion figure represents the maximum potential exposure if Meta were found liable and subject to the full range of penalties under state consumer protection laws and federal children's privacy regulations. While legal experts consider a judgment of that magnitude unlikely, even a fraction would be devastating. For context, Meta's entire market capitalization fluctuates around $800 billion to $1 trillion. The lawsuit seeks civil penalties that could reach thousands of dollars per violation, and with millions of young users and years of alleged misconduct, the numbers compound rapidly. Financial analysts watching the case say significant penalties could fundamentally alter Meta's business model. The state's case relies on Meta's own words. Court filings reference internal research reports, employee emails, and executive presentations that allegedly show Meta knew its products caused harm. One cited study reportedly found that teens blamed Instagram for increases in anxiety and depression. Another allegedly showed the company was aware that its algorithm could lead vulnerable teens down rabbit holes of eating disorder and self-harm content. The lawsuit claims executives received regular briefings on these issues but prioritized engagement metrics over safety reforms. Meta disputes the characterization of these documents, saying they've been taken out of context. The lawsuit is expected to feature testimony from psychologists, neuroscientists, and technology ethics experts who will explain how Meta's features exploit cognitive vulnerabilities. Experts are likely to testify about the adolescent brain's heightened sensitivity to social feedback and reward, making teenagers particularly susceptible to addictive design. Former tech insiders may describe the intentional application of persuasive technology principles. Meta will counter with its own experts arguing that correlation doesn't equal causation and that multiple factors contribute to teen mental health beyond social media. The battle of expert witnesses will be crucial to the case outcome. The Meta lawsuit is part of a larger wave of accountability efforts targeting big tech. School districts have filed separate lawsuits claiming social media addiction has created a public education crisis. Individual families have sued over specific harms to their children. International regulators from the European Union to Australia have implemented or proposed strict new rules for platforms that serve minors. The lawsuits follow a pattern seen with tobacco, opioids, and other industries where internal documents revealed companies knew of harms they publicly denied. Some legal scholars call it a potential turning point, others warn of overcorrection that could stifle innovation. In response to mounting pressure, Meta has announced numerous safety initiatives. Instagram introduced parental supervision tools allowing parents to set time limits and view their teens' activity. The company implemented sensitive content controls that limit certain material in teen feeds. Meta hired thousands of content moderators and invested in AI detection systems for harmful content. Teen accounts now default to private settings. The company points to these changes as evidence of good faith. Critics argue the reforms came only after public outcry and litigation, and question whether they address the fundamental business model that prioritizes engagement above all else. The case could establish precedent that fundamentally changes how social platforms operate. If the states prevail, companies might be forced to abandon engagement-maximizing algorithms, at least for young users. Features designed to be addictive could be regulated or banned. Age verification might become mandatory and rigorous. The business model built on infinite attention could face existential threat. Conversely, if Meta prevails, it could entrench Section 230 protections and affirm that platforms bear little responsibility for design-related harms. Tech investors, policymakers, public health advocates, parents, and teenagers themselves all have stakes in the outcome. Legal experts predict the case will take years to resolve. Meta has filed motions to dismiss, arguing the states lack standing and that federal law preempts their claims. Those motions must be decided before the case proceeds to discovery, where internal documents would be examined in detail. If the case survives dismissal, both sides would depose witnesses and experts. A trial, if it occurs, could happen in 2025 or beyond. settlement remains possible at any stage, though the gap between the parties appears vast. Appeals, regardless of the initial verdict, are virtually certain. The legal battle is just beginning. Beyond legal arguments and financial stakes, the lawsuit represents families who believe social media has harmed their children. Parents describe teens who can't put their phones down, whose self-esteem collapsed after Instagram comparison spirals, who encountered eating disorder content that fueled dangerous behaviors. Mental health professionals report treating increasing numbers of young people whose anxiety and depression they link to social media use. These stories drive the legal case but transcend it. Whatever the verdict, the question remains: how do we protect young people in a digital age while preserving beneficial aspects of online connection? The answer may determine the well-being of an entire generation. The case of 42 states versus Meta platforms will reshape the digital landscape one way or another. A victory for the states could usher in a new era of tech accountability, where algorithms face scrutiny and children's mental health outweighs engagement metrics. A Meta victory could preserve the status quo and confirm that platforms bear minimal responsibility for design-related harms. The $1.4 trillion question isn't just about money, it's about power, responsibility, and the kind of internet we want for the next generation. As the legal process unfolds, millions of young people continue scrolling, liking, comparing, and wondering if the platforms they can't quit were designed precisely so they couldn't. The verdict, when it finally comes, will answer whether that was by accident or by design.